Now let's move to the last presential talk of the day. Uy, Mrs. Yang, okay, please. And she will present her work on an autonomous sensing boat for multiple heavy metals analysis in natural waters utilizing anodic stripping voltammetry. Please.
Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm super happy to be attend this workshop and to present our latest work. It's about a new tool to detect the multiple heavy metals in natural waters. It is an automatic boat. And as we know that the heavy metals is one of the most toxic pollutions in the natural waters. And it's not only because it's toxicity, but also it's because it can accumulate in human's body. So that's why like normally the people will use spatial assessment and to check the concentration of the heavy metals in rivers or lakes. But this assessment is more relies on personal works. So the people will directly go to the testing site and getting the samples there and take it back to the lab. However, this assessment is cost a lot of time, also with a very high cost. And also because the water matrix is very sensitive to any contamination or transport. So it like increase the risk of contamination and changing the original information of the heavy metals. And that's why some researchers, they started to think whether it is possible to combine the electrochemical techniques with to do this kind of task, because the electrochemical techniques has advantages of high sensitivity and also with very high simplicity. And so with this aim, we have one idea whether we can combine the square wave voltammetry together with automatic boat, and then to make it as an in situ and a fully automatic tool to detecting the heavy metals in rivers or lakes. And first, like before going deeper, I will introduce you some like background of the square wave voltammetry. So first, this kind of method can be divided by two steps. The first step is called deposition. So the negative potential will be applied on the working electrode. And then the heavy metal cations will be reduced on the working electrode. And after that, there will be the stripping voltammetry, and the applied potential will be released to zero by the square waves. And during this step, and the applied potential and the current will be recorded as a voltammogram as shown in figure C. And by this figure, you can easily know the heavy metal species by its peak potential. And also by checking the peak in intensity, you can know the concentration of the heavy metals. And so based on this idea that we try to do to design and build a setup of a flow sensing system. And in this system, during the flow, you can do the deposition, which can accumulate the heavy metals and increase the sensitivity. And when the flow stop, and you can do the stripping and then have accurate results by it. And please keep in mind, but our work here is to try to build an in situ and automatic setup. So first we design like two in light, and one is for the sample. The other one is for like pre-stored electrolyte. So in this way, you can use the sample in light like injected inside the real sample and without the manual mixing, because it will be moved by the pump and later in the mixing system. And this mixing system can mix them automatically. And by passing through the bubble trap system, the bubble trap will remove all the air inside to make sure that the liquid flowing inside the flow cell is without any bubbles. And then in the flow cell, there also has the connectors embedded, so it can connect it with the potential start, and the potential start will have the Bluetooth to wireless like communicated with the laptop. And this is the picture of the mixing system. And this one is the picture of the flow cell that we used. And you can clearly see that there are two O-rings there. It is for encapsulate or confine the liquid, and just like the liquid remain and passing by on the surface of the electrode. And you can also see this screen printed electrode. It is by the screen printing techniques in which the squeegee will move and push the ink through the pattern. And then the ink will go through the meshes on the wet pattern and then deposit on your desired substrate. And we are using a layer by layer strategy to build this heavy metal sensor by printing 4 different material and different pattern and stack them together. And due to this limited time, so I will not go deeper inside the optimization and the sensing performance in the laboratory in molecular water. I just summarized the results here. And it should be noticed that actually for lead and copper, they have a very good sensitivity, and it is like satisfy the guidance by WHO. But it also should be noticed that the LOD of cadmium in simultaneous detection is highly different from the one in individual detection. It is kind of open issue for this electrochemical detecting heavy metal method. It is called mutual interference. So the target heavy metals, when during the deposition, they will aggregate together and then giving the weird signals. And then we integrated this fluidic system inside the boat. And in figure A and B, you can clearly see that actually our system is very compacted because they just hide inside one corner of the whole boat. And this boat, like it should satisfy several functions. So first one is the automatic driving and the measurements. And for this function, it will allow user to define the navigating path of this boat and also to set the measuring sets. And for realize this function, firstly, you need a module and to provide the GPS signal. So in our case, we decided to use the smartphone and to provide the location of this boat. And also, you also need a sensing manager and to control the automatic sensing for the potential start. So here we are using a commercial blue box. So it can like automatically control the pump and also control the potential start. And then the second function is the real-time routine and modification. So it means that you can easily modify the navigating route and also to change the sensing sites. And in this part, we need a wireless communication between the boat and the tablet. So here, the smartphone also has a second function is to use the wireless communication to transmit these commands from tablet. And the third one is about the wireless data transmission. So the data will transmit by 2 ways. The first way is by the one line between tablet and the smartphone, as I introduced before. And the other way is directly by the Bluetooth. So the Bluetooth will update the data to the cloud, and the user or the tablet will easily access to the database. So here are the final data we have from the boat. From figure A to figure D, it is the like we use this boat to calibrate inside the laboratory. So we use a real river sample from Tidal River to spiking with the standard heavy metal solutions and to prepare different solutions with different concentrations and to do this calibration in real sample. And you can clearly see that the LOD, the cadmium LOD is still very high, but as we explained before, that this is probably caused by the mutual interference. And the other two, the lead and the copper, it has similar results with the one in molecular water. And then figure D shows the typical voltammograms that we can have from these experiments. And you can clearly see the different peaks which can be assigned to different heavy metal ions. And at last, we put this boat into Osor stream. And in this stream, there is a mine, like distorted mine there. And we instructed the boat to navigate from the set up and to the set down. And then they will sampling the waters and test by these 4 sites. And in figure F, you can clearly see that the signal of the mine one is relatively higher than the others. So it means that this boat has the ability to distinguish the concentrations of the heavy metals in waters. But regarding to copper is more or less the same as the others, is because the mine near Osor River is originated from the fluorine, barium, lead, zinc mine vein. So that's why it only has the lead is higher than the others, but the copper doesn't. So in the end, this is how the boat like navigating in the river, how this working. Yes, so just a conclusion firstly, like we fabricate a very new automatic sensing boat for the multiple heavy metal detection. And it should be noticed that the LOD for copper and for lead are under the guidelines by WHO, but still there are some problems. The first one is the mutual interference issues on cadmium is very severe, and it cannot allow this boat to detect the cadmium very accurately. And the last one is this boat actually can be improved further, as my collaborator is doing now. He tried to train this boat to recognize like different visions and train this boat to do like a different response to some uncertainties in the natural environment. And many thanks to the InCatch project and my group. And thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for the nice talk. Yeah, it's a very nice, it's a smart boat. Very
you.
good idea. Yeah. So now it's open for discussion. So I have a question with respect to the, for instance, if you can compare when you have, I don't know if you have done some measurements of the same thing, no, for detecting heavy metal, but not under flow. If there's a change in the, for instance, a limit of detection, if when you have a flow of water or under stationary conditions.
Actually, we didn't like especially try it, but we believe like the water flow will not influence this system so much, because first we are using a pump to sampling all the samples, and the other one we have the bubble trap. So that's why the bubble trap is there, is to avoid when the boat has the big movements and the air could be like introduced in. So the bubble trap will break the bubbles to keep a continuous flow. So all the measurements is under that conditions. So even though we don't try, but we think it doesn't like influence it so much.
Okay, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
So give an applause to the speaker.